Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us at the end of your week from California and Amsterdam and Michigan and Indiana and wherever you are. We're so glad you're here. My name is Kendra Wieneke, and I serve as one of the associate directors here at Siebel Center for Design, and I'll be MC for the afternoon. I have a few housekeeping notes for you before we begin. The first is that we have enabled closed captioning and live transcription for this webinar. So if one of those options sounds interesting to you, you can access them by clicking on the CC near the bottom right of your Zoom window. The other thing is that you are welcome, as you have already been doing in the chat, you are welcome to engage with the other participants here using the chat function throughout the webinar. But if you have a question for one of our speakers, we ask that you please use the Q&A feature to ask questions. Some of these questions will be answered live following the presentations near the end of the hour. And speaking of the chat feature, you will also find today's program in the chat box momentarily, and it's also on the web at go.illinois.edu/scdvoh. Additionally, we just wanted to let you know that we are recording this webinar. With that, I think we are ready to begin. So first, as a land-grant institution, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign has a responsibility to acknowledge the historical context in which it exists. In order to remind ourselves and our community, we will begin this event with the following statement. We are currently on the lands of the Peoria, Kaskaskia, Piankeshaw, Wea, Miami, Mascoutin, Odawa, Sauk, Meskwaki, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Chickasaw nations. It is necessary for us to acknowledge these Native nations and for us to work with them as we move forward as an institution. Over the next 150 years, we will be a vibrant community inclusive of all our differences, with Native peoples at the core of our efforts. In fulfillment of the university's 21st century land grant mission, Siebel Center for Design is doing its part to reimagine higher education through a human-centered lens. Over the course of the next hour, we're so excited to share a little bit about what we've been up to in our first 2 years, both inside and outside of the classroom. But first, we are thrilled to share with you a special sneak peek into our new building. What are we building for you at the new Siebel Center for Design at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign? Check it out. We'll have bright, airy classrooms for you to learn in or teach in, 9,000 square feet of dynamic and flexible collaboration space designed specifically to get you started on your creative journey, plus nearly 5,000 square feet of fabrication space, tools, and other equipment to help you get those ideas out of your head and into the world. There'll be a small but mighty amphitheater area for you to take in presentations and performances, or present and perform there yourself, and a multimedia studio for smaller scale audio and video production, maybe your podcast or your web series. Hungry? You might grab some beverages and snacks at our cafe. And remember, our kitchen space will be all about entrepreneurial food projects, maybe even yours. If you need inspiration, our 60-foot-long interactive gallery wall, curated by faculty and staff, will showcase the past, present, and future of multidisciplinary collaboration and innovation at UIUC. Or you could simply take in the beauty of our campus and sit out on our plaza. It might be where you get your next big idea. Can you see yourself at Siebel Center for Design? We certainly can. You belong here. Let's make this building come alive in 2021. We are eagerly anticipating the opportunity to welcome you all to the building in person, just as soon as it is safe and advisable to do so. We're also so grateful for the generous gift from the Thomas and Stacy Siebel Foundation that made Siebel Center for Design a reality. I'd now like to welcome the inaugural director of Siebel Center for Design, Rachel Switzky. Rachel joined SCD in 2018 after a decade as an executive director at IDEO in Palo Alto, California. She is a two-time alumna of the UIUC College of Fine and Applied Arts, and we're so lucky to have her back here. Rachel?
Thanks, Kendra. So I'm Rachel Switzky, and I'm the inaugural director here at Siebel Center for Design. I started in this role in 2018, and campus looked a lot different then than it did in 1988 when I first enrolled here as a student. Despite the more than 20 years of professional experience under my belt, I felt like a first-year student again, excited, anxious, and a little scared. This time, I had a big job to do, to infuse design thinking and human-centered design all across this campus, and to train students, no matter their major, to do the same, to prepare them to solve society's most complex problems. No big deal. In order for this to work, I knew I needed to first understand the day-to-day life of today's students, and not just from the outside looking in. I needed to understand, sure, what they did and what they said, but also what they thought, what they felt, and how they were experiencing. I needed to get to the heart of things and to understand how to build something that would help them change the world. So what did I do as soon as I arrived? I built a dorm room in my office. I constructed a loft bed, hung some posters on the wall, and asked the facility staff to bring me the most uncomfortable chair they could find. I wanted to get into the mindset of what it felt like to be a new student, to understand what it was like to leave home and attend college for the first time, because it had been a while for me. This is what human-centered design teaches us to do, to start with empathy, which is more relevant now than ever before. And it's what we do every day at the Siebel Center for Design. We start with empathy. For the last 2 years, we've found ways to work with students and faculty from nearly every college on this campus. Here at UIUC, we're reimagining what a 21st century education can be, so that we might build what I like to call the human-centered university. A university that trains students to be entrepreneurs, thinkers, innovators, and makers in any situation, wherever they may land. And a university that encourages interdisciplinary collaboration and applied creativity in every member of our campus community. We're just getting started, but I'm so proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the past 2 years. Siebel Center for Design's mission is to practice, model, and teach design thinking, using human-centered design to reimagine our campus, our community, and our collective world. We're doing this by weaving design thinking into every student's experience so that the methods and mindsets of design thinking and human-centered design can stay with them throughout their entire journey as a student and then into their careers. We're creating learning environments to advance the study of design thinking in higher education, regardless of discipline. We're encouraging everyone to take a human-centered approach to everything that they do, building not only a physical space, but an intellectual space where everyone is welcome to come and explore how they can advance their own creative journey. And we're constantly working to understand the needs and wants of all of those around us by practicing what we preach. So who do I mean when I say we? The amazing team at Siebel Center for Design, which has grown from a small army of students to more than 30 creative individuals led by a dynamic senior team and 2 of the best office managers you'll ever find. Our team comes from many backgrounds and disciplines, and we're working together to build, sustain, and scale our programs. Our 2020 summer internship program attracted more than 350 wildly talented student applicants from all across campus, which made it very difficult to narrow those applicants down to the 20 listed here who ended up joining us this past summer. Our first cohort of SCD fellows, who just arrived in August, is composed of a diverse cast of both emerging and established design strategists who are now creating new classes, teaching alongside our faculty partners, and working with campus and community entities to make everything around us a little more human-centered. And our first set of talented and unique graduate research assistants, our SCD scholars, are charting new pathways in interdisciplinary teaching and research, currently representing mechanical engineering, art education, curriculum and instruction, and kinesiology, with more disciplines to come. I can't say enough about them or about the potential that they embody. Our SCD scholars are our ambassadors into campus, our academic ambassadors, working to fully integrate design thinking into their home departments. Simply put, the Siebel Center for Design is like nothing else here at UIUC, or really any other institution. The combination of our mission, our team, our new home, and our position to serve the whole campus is unique and peerless. We're creating the conditions for collaborative lightning to strike on this campus in ways we can't yet imagine, with an eye towards building something equally unique, a truly human-centered university. And we need you to build it with us. In the coming year, our building will open, our programming will evolve, and we'll find new ways to meet the unmet needs of this campus and this community. The ongoing global pandemic has changed everything this year. But the one thing it hasn't changed is the fact that we want you to see yourself here as a student, as a collaborator, as a champion, supporter, or advocate. We hope that Siebel Center for Design can provide that to you, whomever you are, the inspiration you need to make a difference in this world. As we continue to reimagine what a 21st century education can be, let's keep working on building a human-centered university together.
Thank you so much for that, Rachel. Now I would like to welcome our postdoctoral research associate, Dr. Saad Shehab, and Associate Director of Programs, Rachel Dietkus, who have been leading our assessment, research, curriculum, and construction efforts. And they will share some of the exciting progress that we've been making in those areas. So Saad, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Kendra, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for being here with us today. This is super exciting. My name is Saad Shehab. I'm a postdoctoral research associate here at the Siebel Center for Design, and I work with a group of wonderful and talented people at the Center Assessment and Research Laboratory, where we conduct research to evaluate and inform our practice of teaching and learning human-centered design in both formal and informal learning environments. In the next slides, I'll explain what I mean by this through giving you a very, very brief idea on what the literature says about human-centered design and human-centered design in education. Then I will share with you the findings from one major study that we conducted in spring 2019, and I will end my presentation by outlining some of our current and future research directions. So the literature on human-centered design, or HCD as we like to call it, defines it as a problem-solving approach that identifies the unmet need of a population in order to collaboratively and iteratively develop solutions. It is an approach that relies on empathy and iteration. Empathizing allows us to learn from and about the people, about their needs and problems. Iterating allows us to experiment and learn from failure and continue making progress in the right directions. The power of this approach is that it can lead to meaningful and relevant solutions to challenging, authentic problems that characterize our current world. Literature on human-centered design advocates its use in education because of two major reasons. One, HCD provides authentic problem-solving contexts and features multidisciplinary collaborations for students to engage in effective and motivating learning experiences. Two, HCD can help students develop 21st century skills and mindsets, such as human-centeredness and collaboration. These skills and mindsets align with what is noted in new educational reform documents and in current employers' demands. For those reasons, HCD started to find its way to K-12 and higher education classrooms. Nevertheless, the literature still lacks clear definitions, instructional models, and tools that can help us design and implement effective, efficient, and enjoyable HCD learning experiences in formal and informal learning environments. So to address this gap in the literature and meet the demand for clear definitions, instructional models, and tools to teach and learn HCD, our assessment and research lab has been conducting design-based research in actual K-12 and higher education classrooms, in addition to informal learning environments. As you can see in the figure, our research studies start by analyzing and exploring existing literatures and learning environments to inform designing and constructing interventions. Then we evaluate and reflect on these interventions so we can improve their effectiveness and enrich our theoretical understandings. We rely on evidence from these studies to inform our implementations and spread. Specifically, we believe that findings from our research studies enrich our understanding of HCD, its teaching and learning processes, inform the development of activities that can engage teachers and learners in HCD, assist teachers or facilitators or teaching assistants as they orchestrate HCD activities, facilitate the work of multidisciplinary teams as they try to collaborate with each other and with the stakeholders in order to solve the problem at hand, inform the use of existing technology and the design of new technology that can ease the effective implementation of HCD's teaching and learning processes. Let me give you a quick example of a research study. In spring 2019, HCD integrated human-centered design activities in 3 courses: a technological entrepreneurship course, a mechanical engineering course, and an education course here on campus. Based on students' responses to post-survey items and instructors' interviews, we learned that both teachers and students needed a tool that can reduce the complexity of the HCD approach and transforms its abstract processes to more concrete and accessible processes. In light of our findings and based on existing literature on HCD and many interviews with design specialists at HCD, we developed the following taxonomy that embraces the HCD approach in a set of nonlinear spaces. Next slide, please. So we can see in this approach the understand, the synthesize, the ideate, prototype, and implement space. Each space is composed of 4 processes, such as empathize, define, or create, associated with concrete practices that can foster the implementation of HCD in learning environments. This taxonomy has been used as a lens to plan and conduct research studies that answer questions such as, what are the necessary conditions that ensure the successful implementation of HCD in different classes? What characterizes high-quality interactions between the learners as they participate in each space of the taxonomy? How can we create design challenges that fit within the objectives and scopes of existing courses? How can we support teachers and teaching assistants as they teach HCD? How can learners transfer the HCD skills and mindsets they acquire in one course to solve other problems in other courses or new contexts? Answers to such questions can enhance the HCD literature and enrich our knowledge on how to design and implement effective, efficient, and enjoyable HCD learning experiences in formal and informal environments. The HCD taxonomy has also been used as a tool that facilitates the integration of HCD in higher education courses through informing the design and implementation of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. You will learn more about this in a minute. Here are the references that I used in my talk, and now I will pass it to our Associate Director of Programs, Rachel Dietkus, who can give you a better sense of how are we integrating HCD in higher education courses. Thank you.
Thank you, Saad, for that great overview of what we are doing within the research and assessment arena. As both Saad and Kendra said, my name is Rachel Dietkus, and I'm going to talk a bit about our approach to human-centered design in higher education. One of the areas where I have been investing a great deal of my time and attention to has been on our approach to curriculum development, teaching and learning, and the many ways in which we have found complementary opportunities to partner with faculty and staff. I'll spend the next few minutes talking about how we actually do this. First and foremost, it's important to note that we strongly believe in a with, not for approach. This is critical when working with such an expansive and fascinating group of faculty and staff across our campus. Although we have Y-shaped team members with rich expertise from design to social work to history, information science, mechanical engineering, and everything else in between, we do not have the depth and the expertise in every single discipline on this amazing campus. So throughout the past 2 years, we found a number of ways in which we can work with faculty and staff to prepare curricular content, provide guest lectures and other engagements in the classroom, or partner more fully with faculty and staff. And when we've done this at the college or school level, we've been able to add depth and breadth to the methods and mindsets of human-centered design. As you can see on this slide, this really ranges from being a thought colleague to a guest speaker or fully co-teaching with someone. And we enjoy any type of engagement with our growing number of collaborators and partners. The next thing I want to share is how we actually integrate HCD. We take a with, through, and about approach to human-centered design in higher education. When we're teaching with human-centered design, we want to make sure that the student experience is holistically, cognitively, and emotionally engaging. When we're working with faculty and staff on teaching about and through HCD, we want to ensure that students have mindsets for the future to be fully human-centered, experimental, communicative, collaborative, metacognitive, and creative. And when we're teaching about and through human-centered design, it's crucial that students have that conceptual understanding of what we are actually delivering. Some of the best ways for us to show you how we have done this is through some concrete examples. The first example I want to share is about a first-year experience course, Business 101, Professional Responsibility in Business. In this course, we worked closely with Dr. Amy Barbo, the lead instructor who did a complete overhaul of the course during the last academic year. Dr. Barbo and her team were most interested in a through approach, but you can see that we did some integration about and with human-centered design. When we met with the larger Business 101, 201, 301, and 401 teaching teams this spring, Amy enthusiastically called Lucas O'Brien and myself her course therapists. She went on to say that she was able to share with us all of her pain points with the course and use this as a thought partner to process various ways in which we could integrate HCD this fall. So for me as a social worker in design, this really resonated with me. Next, I want to talk a bit about our partnership with Drs. Chris Vann and Curtis Mason with the College of Education. We worked together on Education 201, Identity and Difference in Education, a course that is required for education majors and fulfills the U.S. Minority Culture's general education requirement for undergraduates. When we first met with Dr. Spann in the summer of 2018, he was very excited to work with us, yet he gave us very clear instructions. Don't mess with my syllabus, don't touch the lectures, and don't touch the assignments. So we knew the design constraints right from the beginning, and we were able to iterate on a prototype in a matter of weeks. What you can see here are a few pages from a nearly 60-page workbook that all students complete as part of their community-based placement, a requirement for this course. This workbook has served as a guide since the spring 2019 semester and is an example of where we maintain that feedback loop from the students, the teaching assistants, and the lecturers to keep improving upon that initial prototype. This semester, we're working with Dr. Mason. We also created a complimentary teaching guide that includes tips and support for the teaching assistants on how to engage the students in the workbook and how to assess the students' contributions to the workbook. So in the past 4 semesters, well over 100 students have used this workbook, and we are thrilled that the number of students immersed in human-centered design principles will only continue to grow. Lastly, I want to share some highlights about our own course offerings and what we like to call some of our successful pilots and prototypes. Since the fall of 2018, we have been piloting our own curriculum. And what you can see here are examples of practicing, modeling, and teaching design thinking and human-centered design. We're using the about and through approaches primarily as we tackle issues like women's health and well-being, social impact, and storytelling. Intro to Design Thinking, our Intro to Design Thinking course, is one that we've taught 7 times now, and it's given us very keen insight on the learnings of human-centered design. Lastly, I want to share this quote from Bo Pang, a graduate student in landscape architecture and a former student in our Intro to Design Thinking course. Bo decided to enroll in this course to better understand users and their needs, specifically individuals that will be using the landscape she will actually be designing. So last fall, she stated that this course had exceeded her expectations and taught her how to be a better presenter. She also shared that it also taught her how to use the design thinking process to conduct high-quality interviews with potential users. This sentiment matches exactly what we're seeing in the research. We have findings from studies showing that the majority of students thought that human-centered design was enjoyable, and they learned from the lectures and activities. They also reported that they have learned transferable skills to solve problems in design projects and other courses. The majority also showed significant improvements in implementing the human-centered design processes and practices and acquiring the human-centered design skills and mindsets. And now I'm excited to throw the baton back to Kendra as she introduces more members of our team.
Thank you so much, Saad and Rachel, for that. So as our mission statement reads, here at Siebel Center for Design, we are committed to reimagining not only our campus, but also our community and our collective world. And in advancing these tenets of our mission, we've had the opportunity to serve as creative problem solvers alongside many campus and community partners as we work towards building a human-centered university and a human-centered community. I'd like to introduce you now to SCD design strategist Jake Fava, lecturer Amanda Henderson, and SCD scholar Gail Rost, who have all been doing incredible work advancing our mission outside of the traditional campus classroom. Jake, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Kendra. So this past summer, I was part of the team that worked with our completely online MBA program in the Geese College of Business, which is called the IMBA. Since its launch in 2016, the IMBA program has been the fastest growing MBA program on the planet, exploding from just 115 students in their first class to now over 2,500 students in over 90 different countries. It truly might be, as they claim, the world's MBA. This excellent, affordable, and flexible program is revolutionizing MBA education as we know it. But of course, with such rapid growth in such a short time, there's bound to be challenges to maintain a quality educational experience. And that's where human-centered design comes in. So we launched a project with Geese IMBA leadership to investigate the IMBA student experience and search for ways we might be able to improve it. In human-centered design, it's essential to conduct lots of interviews with a range of stakeholders in a project space. It's through these conversations and diving deep into the experience of individuals that we're able to begin to develop an understanding of that space. So for this project, we first conducted a series of what we call looking in interviews, which are just interviews with the people within the organization we're working with. In this case, the current and former leadership of the IMBA program. And we also conducted interviews with a few current and former IMBA students from diverse groups. We explored as much as we could about what they enjoyed and worked well for them in the program, what bothered and inhibited them, and most importantly, why they felt the way they did. Now, I'll quickly take you through some of our findings here. As we conducted these interviews, a few things started to become really clear. For one, students seemed really happy with the overall quality of the educational experience. Most classes were usefully informative, and most professors were extremely engaging, which was great to hear. Talking to a range of students, we also heard about a massive range of different intentions, goals, and constraints students were coming in with. The 50-year-old C-suite executive is going to have very different needs from the 30-year-old single-parent entrepreneur, for example. Next, we picked up on a trend of students leaning more on peers for support and questions about the program, rather than the existing support infrastructure. And finally, we were hearing about ways in which students felt like their engagement with and support by the program could be improved, which gave us a lot of insight in how we could design something to meet these needs. So let's explore some of the opportunities for improvement we identified and the recommendations we provided for each. In human-centered design, we often use what we call how might we questions to frame opportunities that are identified through research. We use this phrasing because it suggests a solution might exist to this challenge, but we may or may not have it yet. We'll have to gather feedback to evaluate our ideas before we know for sure, which are, of course, the next steps in the human-centered design process. I'll now briefly walk through 3 how might we questions and the concepts we recommended to address each of them. The first opportunity identified in the research was around the theme of providing personalized student support, which we've already talked a little about. With all the information IMBA was already gathering on students through the application process, advisor meetings, and feedback surveys, we wondered if there was some way to leverage that knowledge to anticipate student needs. As a result, we came up with the student profile, a concept for an advising tool that would contain a few key factors that our research pointed to as major differentiators between students. Most significantly, we felt that student intentions, so what motivated them to be in the program, and student constraints, so personal circumstances that may inhibit success, were the most important factors. Our second opportunity was around group projects in classes, which is where most of the work for classes was done and where most students were connecting with other students, if the group interacted well with each other, that is. If a student had a negative experience with the program, it was probably in one of these groups. In an attempt to address this, the team identified a series of key principles which groups need to commit to in order to function properly and equitably. Our recommendations centered around ways to encourage adherence to these principles within groups throughout
All right, hang with us. We will get this sorted out in just a second here, everyone. Thanks so much. Let's jump ahead to my colleague, Amanda Henderson, who is a lecturer and senior design strategist here at SCD. And she has been doing some really, really cool work with the Beckman Institute for Advanced Science and Technology and Dr. Marty Burke's Molecule Maker Lab. So Amanda, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kendra. As Kendra mentioned, democratizing the molecule making experience is the vision of Dr. Marty Burke, a professor in the University of Illinois Department of Chemistry, and honestly, one of the most inspiring people I have ever had the pleasure of working with. In order to accomplish the goal of democratizing molecule making, Dr. Burke began the Molecule Maker Lab at Beckman Institute for Advanced Science and Technology because the way he sees it, many of the greatest challenges facing society today have molecular solutions that await discovery. And really, most people never have the opportunity to participate, let alone innovate in this field. In the spring of 2020, a team from Siebel Center for Design was tasked with the challenge of making this democratization possible by creating an inviting, informative, and effective lab experience for a range of audiences in order to break down the barriers potential molecule makers may face on their journey to molecular innovation. While the original goal of the project was to design an amazing lab experience for visitors and scientists to engage with in person, our research team found out very quickly that while inspiring and exciting, the current stories of innovation around the molecular making process seem really out of reach to people who aren't experts in chemistry and specifically molecular synthesis. And as we considered the audience we needed to reach in order to democratize molecule making, it became clear that the majority of our potential molecule makers may not feel confident in their understanding of general chemistry concepts. The design research team realized that in order to reach the goal of making the lab accessible for all, we would first need to understand the distinct stakeholder groups that might be interested in engaging with the lab, and in what ways they would need to be supported in order to overcome the current barriers they might face in visiting and participating in Molecule Maker Lab. Through our exploration and interviews, we were able to identify 5 stakeholder groups that might engage with the lab and identified insights around the unique barriers within each of their journeys. While these 5 groups, including the lab team members, collaborators, customers, educators, and scholars all have unique needs, our research also indicated that there were common moments that mattered along their journeys to participation. These common moments include finding out about the lab, deciding to engage, connecting with the lab, and participating in molecule making. And while there are unique barriers and opportunities on each of their journeys, as shown on this user journey framework for collaborators, the SCD team was able to look at these highs and lows in their current experience as opportunities to begin addressing how we might create new onboarding experiences to guide users to their fullest molecule making potential. A key piece of our process was bringing together our research insights to develop a set of design principles that will shape each concept created for the lab. Our 5 principles guide us to use stories as a powerful introduction to the Molecule Maker Lab experience and build confidence of each stakeholder in their ability to participate. They remind us to connect imagination with reality as the lab acts as a trusted collaborator for all. And finally, they reinforce the importance of communication and support for all stakeholders throughout their entire experience engaging with the lab. The culmination of our research for phase 1 of this project was to apply the design principles to develop a series of how might we questions created to inspire the generation of concepts for onboarding experiences for each group of stakeholders. Over the summer of 2020, we launched into phase 2 of this project and began developing concepts in order to gather user feedback from our various stakeholder groups. We're so grateful to Dr. Burke and other campus partners for the opportunity to continue this work through the new NSF-funded Molecule Maker Lab Institute, in which Siebel Center for Design will contribute to the education and outreach strategy, imagining a new supported journey to the lab that will make molecular synthesis and innovation accessible to all. To wrap up the afternoon, I'll hand things over to my colleague, Gail Rost, who's charting new pathways in human-centered design training for K-12 educators across the state.
Thank you, Amanda. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be here to share with you today. Developing the mission for the center included thinking beyond ourselves, the UIUC campus, beyond the university system, and into the wider world. It soon became clear that practicing, modeling, and teaching human-centered design must include any and all who can share our message, who are curious about the approach, and who can contribute to the development of our shared futures. K-12 is a rich platform for sharing our message. Through this lens, our 3-year plan includes professional development opportunities for teachers in our state and beyond so that access can be spread wide and deep. Through current Illinois State Board of Education approved virtual trainings to future face-to-face hands-on activities in our schools and in our own building, we can share our researched human-centered concepts to include gateways into the pre-college spaces led by those who are willing to explore. We're working with 4-H statewide system, we're working with our local schools, and we're training educators throughout the state. These concepts of human-centered design live in a space of unlimited opportunity that are unbounded by social and political constructs. Most recently, we've enjoyed a new partnership with the Illinois Institute of Science and Technology, a state nonprofit organization based in Chicago that is an extension of the Race to the Top federal funding of the Obama administration. This partnership is allowing us to reach STEM educators in various public school districts throughout Illinois. The Illinois Institute of Science and Technology is embracing human-centered design as an approach to help our high school students think about human needs first as an essential component of design without explicit or implicit bias while proposing solutions. These Illinois Institute of Science and Technology STEM challenges put student teams and their teachers with mentors from inside businesses, while they're spending the year working with real-time corporate concerns. Our research shows by using the processes afforded by human-centered design approach, students gain in the development of mindsets directly supporting 21st century skill sets and the state of Illinois K-12 learning standards. Through employing human-centered design thinking in the classroom, students show development in creativity, metacognition, collaboration, experimentation, among others. To support these opportunities, we've just released our beta version of the first module of our new online professional development course series called Learn It, Try It, Apply It. We used the human-centered design approach ourselves to develop this course during COVID and learned through our research that K-12 teachers wanted a combination of asynchronous and synchronous learning options. To that end, this module is a 3-part introductory interactive course that provides 6 hours of the needed yearly professional development for licensed Illinois teachers. In this course, we align our taxonomy and those recognized mindsets to concrete actions and to the national and state learning standards to simplify embedding design thinking into the classroom. As we expand our K-12 relationships and develop more outreach and research opportunities, we have the potential to become a major contributor to research through intra and inter-university collaborations, published scholarly findings, and the sharing of our taxonomy with K-12 educators. I want to share this quote with you from a recent Illinois training of K-12 educators. "This is new," she said. "The nerd in me is joyful." Siebel Center for Design can make the tools of human-centered design practice available to our K-12 teachers and to our young people through the schools, nonprofits, after-school programs before they move into adult life. Outreach through our K-12 schools and programs such as 4-H and the University of Illinois Extension, and through our own university system here in CU and in Chicago and Springfield, will get us on our way. So keep watching us. We're just getting started. And now back to you, Kendra. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gail. The nerd in me is joyful as well. So I want to thank our awesome team for all of those awesome and incredible presentations and their careful work on preparing this fun-packed, information-packed hour that we've got for you here today. So now we are going to open up the room for questions. So if you have a question for one of our panelists or someone that spoke today, please use the Q&A and just shoot it in the Q&A now, and I'll pass it on to the right person. And we're happy to engage with all of you for the rest of our time together. two questions from earlier that I hope you all saw the answer to. We will share the copy of the presentation with those of you who attended today afterwards. You can expect that via email next week. All right, so we've got a question about the building. I don't know if Rachel, you want to answer this one. Do you know when the building will be physically available to either work in or tour?
Yes, thank you for that question. I mean, the building, we have been giving tours, socially distant tours right now while it is still under construction. We will be getting access to the building once it's completed by the end of the year. I imagine that we will be able to start giving tours again in a socially distant way at the beginning of next semester. And we will also, we are planning on running some pilots in the building next semester to start practicing and seeing what works best for all the regulations around COVID around campus. So we've identified several courses that we can be running over the next semester and trying out the building in a bit more slow and steady way. But yes, if you're interested in coming to visit, let us know.
Awesome. Keeping on that theme, Eugene asks, what are some fun, exciting plans on the horizon?
Who wants to answer?
Rachel, I think that's you.
No exciting plans. Well, I think the fact that we're getting our building finally after several years of construction is very exciting and pauses during this global pandemic. So that is exciting, and we're thrilled to be able to get access to it. We're thrilled to be able to actually start working in it and being able to use it as a physical space, which up until this point has been a bit of it feels very like a vision versus reality. So I think I speak for the whole team we're very excited to start seeing what it's like to take everything we've done over the last 2 years and then start adding this additional physical channel of ways that we can begin adapting and including a lot more types of initiatives within our programming and thinking about, we'll have a makerspace now. We'll have a way that and again, thinking about how we can start slowly bringing people into the building safely, but thinking about a lot more of these ways that we can curate the conversations within our building, who we can invite. It's very, very exciting. Now, I also have to say that we've been extremely conscientious and being very conservative about those plans, given a lot of the unknowns of our future in terms of people coming back to campus and being on campus. So it's more just a matter of taking it slow and seeing how we can build off of our pace of just running pilots as we can expand. But we're really hoping that we'll be able to bring more and more people into the building, and that allow us to then start having much more of establishing our culture within that building. And we're also hoping that there can be a really fun dedication in the spring.
Awesome, cool. So Rachel Dietkus, I'm going to shoot this one over to you. How does human-centered design take into account diversity and inclusion as part of design concepts? And is this something that is covered as part of the courses?
That is a good question. I would say that is definitely something that is and that has been integrated into not just our courses, but also just how we try to function and how we try to operate as a center. Definitely, we have certain courses that more explicitly address some of that content. The Design Thinking for Social Impact class is a perfect example. That's a class that that actually Rachel Switzky and I co-created and co-taught in the spring of 2019. Then I co-taught it with a former team member with SCD last fall, and then teaching it again this fall. So that one is, I mean, it's hard to talk about things like social impact, social innovation. And honestly, I think it's really hard, at any point, but especially in this day and age, to talk about human-centered design without incorporating some of those aspects. So it's a big point of discussion. It's a big point of integration and action for us as well.
Thanks for that. I don't know who is the best to answer this one, but what type of programming do you expect in the open performance space?
In the open performance space, meaning the middle of our building, or in our theater? We have clarification.
I think we're talking about our amphitheater space from the video, maybe.
Oh, the amphitheater space. Oh, the amphitheater space is super cool. It just got built up, so now we're actually able to see it, you know, like going from the drawing to how it looks. It is going to be a really nice place for people to practice their public speaking skills. We think it'll be that area in our ground floor. It's going to be a really nice space for like final presentations of capstones and of different projects. There's a whole wall behind it that extends like a huge amount of space for like just poster presentations and almost like science fair. So I can imagine that we are going to have a lot of opportunity in terms of programming, almost like I'd say if we have at the end of the semester a conference of capstone and final presentations where you could be going from one room to another and one space to another. And I think the possibilities are going to be endless with that space. It's really cool. I can't wait for people to come see the building. It's astounding how cool it is. And the pictures just do not do it justice.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Dave Zhao from the Department of Statistics asks, are there any plans to collaborate with the Institute of Genomic Biology here on campus?
We'd love to partner with IGB. We have been in conversation with some members of IGB and have put in some and have had some collaborations and discussions that are inputs into some proposals. I think that we are launching a course next semester called BioBeats, which we're hoping to bring in, thinking about the genetic code and how that then translates and inspires our students to think about design opportunities that are based off these genetic codes. I think that could be something that IGB would be very interested in hearing about, so we can share that information with you. But we want to collaborate with everybody on campus, so there's no place to stop.
Absolutely right. In a similar vein to that, Candace Martinez asks, what recommendations do you have for those of us who are very interested in complementing our current courses with HCD tools and activities? Where to begin?
Rachel, do you want to take that with a?
Yeah, I'll take this question. I presented to a group of PhD students in social work earlier, and they actually had a similar question. I think one of the first one of the best ways to start is to, reach out to us. There's the Design Center email, contact any of us that are on the team. There are a few of us on the team who are working a bit more specifically and concentrating some of our efforts on the curriculum development and finding those ways where we can embed HCD in existing courses. But I also think that, I would almost put a little bit of that challenge back on those of you who are like thinking and wondering like, what could this maybe look like in a current class that I might be teaching? One way is to really just look at your current existing syllabus or the core syllabus that might exist and work with the current, kind of course owner if that is not you, and think, where could there maybe be just a natural complementary way that this could be embedded. I think one of the things that I really liked about that Education 201 example that I shared earlier is that, we got these very explicit instructions from Dr. Span. He said, like, don't mess with my stuff. He said, I think we've got a great lecture, we have a great discussion, and we have this great community placement. Like, you can't change anything. And so it gave us this opportunity to know like what we actually could not play with, if you will. But I think that the output of that and the result of just knowing that from the front end gave us this gave us almost like a wider open opportunity to think about how we could actually complement what he was already doing and what that teaching team was already doing. And so I would definitely, I want to say reach out to us. I personally, I really like just exploring certain syllabi and Like I said, I'm a social worker. I feel like I feel comfortable in certain disciplines, and others are very foreign to me. But that doesn't mean that we can't come up with something together. And I think that definitely that with, not for approach, and that co-designing approach is definitely, that is the absolute key to doing this well.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. I love this next question from Michael Curtin. How will SCD promote empathy as a value at the University of Illinois? Rachel, take that one? Rachel or Rachel?
Which Rachel? I think that, I mean, right now I think, Michael, we're already doing that and thinking about how is it that we're working so closely with our collaborators and trying to be very much about co-creation and thinking about the needs of our university, the needs of our students, the needs of our faculty and staff and administrators. And I think that the comment that I was saying in my beginning about developing a human-centered university, we definitely take that to heart. And it has to do a lot with not just the ways in which we are understanding the needs of our collaborators and designing our materials in order to work explicitly with these needs, and not thinking of this being a one-size-fits-all, but trying to think of all sorts of different ways and modules, and establishing a framework of ways that we can be working together with people, and how it is that we integrate design thinking and again, bringing these human-centered principles to campus, but also with a lot of the collaborators that we're choosing to work with the small bandwidth that we currently have, and thinking about where is it that we have a lot of impact in affecting systems within our university. So just thinking about and a lot of the work that we're doing with the Chancellor's Office, and some of the projects that we didn't highlight today, I feel very proud of that work, and thinking about, it's not just teaching people about empathy, but how is it that it's showcasing through our practices, and not just us as SCD, but our practices as a university. So excited to continue continue that scaling of us working throughout the university, but again, we're just getting started.
Awesome. Kevin Hamilton asks, did I hear right about an experimental kitchen for food entrepreneurship? Yes, you did. That is a new and exciting thing. Would love to hear more about that. Lisa, you want to take that one?
Sure. We're very excited to be able to provide basically a white space for future food entrepreneurial projects, working specifically, I think, with some departments on campus. I think there will be opportunities in the future maybe to work even outside of campus. I think this idea was not even fully formed when the associate director group arrived at the center like a year ago. I think it just sort of came out of some discussions, and we made some adjustments to the plans for the center while they were starting to build it. And food is a really important aspect of this community and area. And so I think having a designated space where there's some experimentation, opportunities for entrepreneurship, especially early on in people's educations and beyond that, I think is sort of a nod to the community and respecting that, that food aspect, while also really incorporating the design thinking process into how we innovate and use that space. Anyone else?
Thanks, Lisa.
Sure.
Vishal asks, any plans for a Human-Centered Design Academy for faculty and staff? Any plans for that yet?
You want to take it? Okay, I can take it. This has come up. This keeps coming up, and so I want to say yes. Not sure when, but it is definitely something that is it's been very much on our radar, especially as we've been expanding and doing a wide variety of different kinds of curriculum development, and then the co-curricular work, and then especially the work that Gail has really been leading in the K through 12 space. That's given us some really good insight on what does professional development look like, what does executive education look like on this campus for both either current students, faculty, and staff, but then also alums, and then beyond that. So I would say something will be on the horizon. It may not be the next academic year, but we do hope, especially if it is safe to do something once we're in the new building, to do some type of either our own event that is related to teaching and preparation for new faculty and existing faculty on campus, and or expanding on or partnering with some of the other efforts that are already on campus. So yeah, that's a great question. It's definitely on our mind.
And to draw a complete circle around this experience today, let's end with this one. Rachel Switzky, we need to know about your dorm room experience. Do you still use it?
No, I unfortunately got kicked out of Swanland. I had to dismantle it. We had it for much longer than I thought. For those of you who are not from our campus or may not remember, Swanland is our main administration building, of which I was placed as an office when I first arrived on campus. And when I looked around at my office, and I haven't had an office ever in my career, I looked around and I was like, this looks like my dorm room, about the size of my dorm room. And that's where I got the inspiration to be like, you know what, that sounds like a good idea. Let's bring my dorm room into here. And we were able to convince Swanland to let us do this. We were able to do it for, I think we had it up for about 2 to 3 weeks until they said, okay, enough's enough. we need this office space back. But it was a really, really good learning experience. Again, just to put myself into the shoes of trying to remember what it's like to be a first-year student. And, I hadn't been on campus for 30 years and things had changed, and just going through that using that as an opportunity for empathy building on the student experience was a really nice way to transition from my previous role in the corporate world into my new life into academia.
Awesome, cool. Well, I think we're just about at time here. I know several of you indicated that you are alumni and interested in learning how you might be involved in our mission. Let's connect and let's talk more about that in the coming weeks, because we'd love to talk about different ways that we're doing that. And I'm going to kick it over to Lisa Brault, who's going to wrap up our hour. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Kendra, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. My name is Lisa Brault. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing here at Siebel Center for Design. And I just have 2 things. Number one, in the chat, I popped in the YouTube link for the video that we saw at the top of the hour. So feel free to view, share to your heart's content. I'm glad that people were really interested in that. That was super fun for us to make. And I'm also hoping that you'll stay connected with us through our newsletter, our website, as you can see on the slide here, and on social media at SCD Illinois, at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please stay connected as we continue to work towards building a human-centered university. Have a great weekend, stay safe, and please, more than anything, stay inspired.